Welcome, and in this edition of Bat Racing Inside Off-Road, Round 3 of the KwaZulu-Natal Championship, we meet a special competitor and go on a training run with Japie Badenhorst.
Off-road racing broke new ground when Round 3 of the APSA Off-Road Championship moved to Richmond in KZN. Situated about 40 kilometers southwest of Pietermaritzburg, the historic town of Richmond was founded in 1850 by the British Burn settlers, originally from Bewley in North Yorkshire. The event was based at the Richmond Country Club and incorporated the Bat Racing 200, which was Round 3 of the KZN Regional Championship.
This all started with I being approached by Rex Borum from the Natal Off-Road Motor Club to see if they could stage a national here. I got hold of the local guys, and I've got a little gang of guys that came around and supported me in organising this event. And what we intend to do is for the funds to go, we've got funds going to local schools and the Richmond Country Club and the district in general, we're hoping will benefit financially from this venture.
Race cars in any form or shape hold a fascination for young kids, and the Bat Racing 200 provided a group of boys from Richmond Primary School with a rare treat. Under the watchful eye of school sports coordinator Penny Wilson, the boys were given a guided tour of the pits and given the opportunity to interact with competitors and service crew.
These are our grade 5s, and they were going to be doing phys ed, but we had the nationals being held here in our own hometown, and I just thought it would be a very good idea. My brother's racing, and he said they could all come and have a sit in his car and to see all the other vehicles that are going to be racing. It's a very, very big event, and they are all super excited to be here. They really are.
Yeah! Off-road racing is thriving at regional level in KwaZulu-Natal, and stalwart Daniel Brooks was looking forward to racing first time out in a new Class A car.
Yeah, we just bought the car. We've had it only about a week now, so it's still very new to us. But yeah, it's a completely different driving style to our old car. But yeah, we're hoping to go out there and have a whole lot of fun.
Running under the Ducatis Property Management banner, the new car saw Daniel Brooks and co-driver Thomas Lawson move up a notch from Class P to the Premier Class A in the special vehicle category. For the crew, the move meant a new learning curve.
From a car we had before was a Spec Zero, which is a P class with a V6 motor. Very different power-wise. With a V6, you basically got to rev it. You're driving it flat out all the time. Now with this monster, the engine's angry to say the least, and it's very different. You can't bury your foot, otherwise it's just going to throw you all over the place. You got to try and feather the power on nice and gently. It's a very different driving style, but I'm sure we'll hopefully get used to it quite quickly and have a nice good run.
A number of KwaZulu-Natal-based competitors were looking to score points at both regional and national level, with Lance Trathui confident that local knowledge helps tip the scales in favour of local crews.
Yes, it does. It always helps racing here in Natal for us. Because it's sugarcane timber, what we're used to racing over here. So it's definitely going to give us a little bit of advantage. We can read the terrain a little bit better, I think, than the guys based in Gauteng and that. And it is a little bit of advantage for racing over here, definitely.
For John Thompson and Ian Crouch, it was a short trip from Underberg to Richmond, with the crew not too sure that a rule that says the way to win off-road races is not to get out of the car applied to them.
I think the secret is that, yeah, I mean, that's an old rule, but yeah, we don't listen really. You know, we're always overshooting, turning it too early. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's going to be exciting as it always is, and see how long we last.
The size and quality of the regional championship field again underlined the strong power base from which off-road racing operates in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, no, it's a very strong group. We've got a very good competitor base. We have very good support at all our races. We've also got the cricket class, which helps a lot to boost our numbers. We got very good Class A cars up here in the region. And yeah, no, we do very, very well from a regional point of view.
Round 2 of the KwaZulu-Natal Regional Championship in Hlahluwe was called off for safety reasons when an incessant downpour led to dangerous race conditions. This made it important for title hopefuls to gather in a rich haul of points in Richmond, with Arthur Barnes and Anthony Usher leading the Class A Championship from Reg Sutton and Robert Hanbury.
The experienced Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith were at the top of the standings in Class B with a 6-point advantage over Graham Peterson in the single-seater Dragonfly.
55-kilometre Donaldson prologue to determine race grid positions included sugarcane and timber plantations, along with rocky veld sections. The route took competitors in the Umkomaas River Valley and was a demanding test.
The experienced Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann were amongst the favourites to win the regional championship section of the race in the LT Earth Movers bat. On the prologue, Trethewey and Wichmann didn't disappoint their supporters and carved out a 37-second advantage over Reg Sutton and Rob Hanbury in a Zarko. During a clean run, Sutton and Hanbury went past national competitors Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen, who were limping along with a broken steering arm. Sutton and Hanbury were 39 seconds clear of former national champions Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith in a JRE.
The prologue gave crews a good indication of what they could expect during the race, and a clean run saw Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith set the fastest time in Class B. They were nearly 3 minutes quicker than Neil Camp in a nicely turned out single-seater Mighty Mag, with having to drive and navigate a distinct disadvantage.
These bovine spectators were completely unmoved by what was happening around them, with Daniel Brooks and Thomas Lawson 5th overall and 3rd in Class A in their first competitive outing in the new Ducatis bat. James Watson was around a minute behind Brooks and Lawson in another Mighty Mag and was 3rd in Class B.
Richmond is around 400 metres above sea level, and at its highest point, the route was 1,400 metres above sea level. That is a difference of 1 kilometre, and there were some interesting climbs. In Class B, the Zarko Light of Ian McLean and Luke van Dort, a solid 4th, with the pair finishing with a narrow 14-second advantage over John Thompson and Ian Crouch in the Staffix Viper.
Class A championship leaders Arthur Barnes and Anthony Usher will have been disappointed with their prologue performance. They were more than 12 minutes behind Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann and had some work to do in the race if they wanted to close the gap. The Smith Sandmaster, driven by Brett Gurney, was running around 3 minutes behind the Class A car and was 7th in Class B.
The bat in the hands of Leon Botma and Quentin Brand was another car entered in both the regional and national sections of the race, with the pair running just ahead of the race co of Stephen Murrow and Bradley Matheson. It was a little cramped in the cockpit of the raceco, with the pair being credited with the same time as former National Rally champion Tony Ball in the single-seater JRE, running under the Bulwer Park banner.
Some of the regional competitors were finding it tough going on the demanding route, and Rob Spencer and Kevin Teron were nearly 28 minutes behind Class B leaders Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith. There was only 8 seconds between Spencer and Teron and Class B championship contender Graham Peterson in the Dragonfly. Chasing after Peterson was Amanda Botma in the interesting-looking Missile, which was the last of the Classified B finishers.
These local residents were taking an interest in proceedings, while Rowan Lamb and Lyle Parker led the production vehicle category, with the pair also entered in both the regional and national competitions in the X-Factory Ford Ranger.
Final results gave Trethewey and Wichmann a comfortable 37-second advantage over Sutton and Hanbury, with Taylor and Keith enjoying a 3-minute lead at the front of the Class B field.
It's time now to meet a special young crew in off-road racing. Driver Kim Hunter was making his debut in a Sandmaster, and sitting alongside him was co-driver Brett Holes, who was born deaf.
Well, I met Dave here, and I got introduced, and I went to watch the first race in New Hanover, and I liked it there. So I met Ian and Luke, and I bought their last car for them. So I decided to get into it.
Not surprisingly, Kim and Brett were a centre of attraction in the pits.
I'm driver, navigator.
Yeah, about, yeah. The first time we have
No, basically, he was going to do karting,
and the karting in the area sort of dwindled, and off-road was his second choice. Basically from my side, he's been trackside since he was about 18 months old. So motorsport's in his genes, in his blood. And off-road was a perfect, being a navigator, because he's deaf, that he can actually participate in the sport on an equal pegging with actually on a better pegging with everybody else, because he doesn't have the noise around him affecting him. It's just Kim that has to worry about the sign language.
For young Brett, a few pointers from seasoned co-driver and Dakar Rally top 10 finisher Rob Howie was a major thrill.
Yeah, basically what he's saying there is it's on the route schedule. It's the hand signals are going to be given through to his driver.
And then
left, right, the odd punch to get him right. Whether it's water or whether it's faster or slower or left or right, up or down. They'll communicate by hand signals. So it's a bit of a challenge without the verbals, the advantage of an intercom, but they're confident that they'll get over that hurdle.
The Namibians call this the Skeleton Coast. It's meant as a warning, but we took it as a challenge. What better test for the all-new Ranger? Having enough grunt to get here is one thing. You also need the fuel economy to get back. The all-new Ford Ranger. Go further.
The Bathroom Bazaar Zanin Rally is one of the longest running events on the Northern Region Rally Championship calendar, and some of the best rally country South Africa has to offer makes it a popular event with competitors.
Off-road racers are a talented bunch who excel in other sports. One of those is 2010 South African champion Japie Badenhorst, with a Centurion-based mechanical engineer set to run his 11th Comrades Marathon this year from Pietermaritzburg to Durban.
Yes, I love my running. I do long-distance running. Well, actually, I just do it to keep fit, to be healthy, and but I like it. It's I'm doing Comrades running. That's the longest I actually do. So. You get the crazy people that do 100 milers and a few day events. So, yeah, but I love running, so sort of a habit, my normal day of life thing. So.
The Comrades Marathon dates back to 1921 and has many famous tales to tell. For professional athletes and fun runners alike, the race alternating between Durban and Pietermaritzburg offers a unique challenge.
For me, it's a personal achievement, 10 Comrades runs. So. Yeah, not something to brag about, but it just came along. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, eventually came down to 10, and this year I'm doing my 11th.
The 2010 season saw Japie Badenhorst and Chris Visser win the production vehicle championship in a privately entered Toyota Hilux. It was an achievement that earned the pair a factory drive with Ford Racing in 2011 in the diesel-powered Ford Ranger. A win on the Toyota 1000 Desert Race justified Ford Racing's faith in the pair.
Well, obviously off-road, the goals are set much higher. In running, I run against myself, so it's just a matter of try and do as well as I could to feel good. Yeah, obviously in the off-road racing you must be sharp and on the numbers 100% every time or always. So yeah, the focus is totally different, I would say. In the long distance running you try and focus more on heartbeat and your pace and that sort of thing, and effort, keep a constant effort. Whilst in off-road racing the focus is on keep the car on the track, keep on in the road book, on the map, follow the instructions. So yeah, it's totally different focus. It's you have to be sharp.
The Atlas Copco Timber Track 400 in Richmond saw Region Racing and SA Warranties team up for the second race in a row to provide the ride of a lifetime for a celebrity co-driver. This time it was the turn of motor dealer Richard Potgieter to sit alongside reigning South African Class P champion Archie Rutherford in the SA Warranties Nissan Navara.
Well, I got a phone call from SA Warranties. We obviously have partnered with business with them. We do quite a bit of business with them. So I got a phone call about 2 weeks ago and said, well, do you want to go on a hell of an adventure? I said, well, I'm always game, you know. So they told me about this, a ride with Archie, and I said, yeah, I'm in, eh?
It wasn't always plain sailing for Rutherford and Potgieter, but on a demanding route they finished 12th overall in the production vehicle category. Rutherford also used his vast experience to make sure most of the damage was on the co-driver's side of the car.
It was awesome, eh? It's absolutely something that you'd never ever even dream about in your wildest dreams, eh? You think these guys know what they're doing, but it's unimaginable, really. And you see, as Archie helped me out with a bit of experience on the right-hand side here, navigating. Got me into some tight corners, but yeah, it was good, eh?
Back to the Bat Racing 200, and with the weather overnight taking a turn for the worse, clerk of the course Rex Boreham and race officials were casting anxious glances skywards. While national competitors on the Atlas Copco Timber Track 400 had to complete 2 loops of a 175-kilometre course, the Bat Racing 200 Regional Brigade only had to complete the first lap. There was low cloud cover, and a drop or two of rain on the route was going to make life interesting for the national and regional crews.
It was a tough day yesterday, and I think it's going to be even tougher today, especially if it rains. It's going to open it up for everybody.
The LT Earth Movers bat of Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann was the first of the regional competitors to get underway, with the first 70 kilometers of the course following the route for the Donaldson Prologue the previous afternoon. Trethewey and Wichmann were competing in both the national as well as regional competitions, and in the Bat Racing 200, the pair started with a mere 37-second advantage over Reg Sutton and Robert Hanbury and were immediately on the pace.
Former national champion Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith set the early pace in Class B. Taylor and Keith started the day with a comfortable 3-minute-plus lead over Neil Camp in the Mighty Mag, and prospects looked bright for the pair, who had a clear road ahead of them, although dust was not going to be a factor.
The Zarco crew of Reg Sutton and Robert Hanbury started the day lying second in Class A Championship and were going along steadily without any dramatics. Sutton and Hanbury were 1 minute and 44 seconds behind overall and Class A leaders Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann, but had a comfortable cushion over Daniel Brooks and Tom Lawson in the new Ducatis Property Management bat. Brooks and Lawson were still getting the feel of their new acquisition and had slipped to more than 8 minutes behind Trethewey and Wichmann. For all this, it was an encouraging start for Brooks and Lawson.
Behind the frontrunners, James Watson was making good progress in the single-seater Mighty Mag and had moved into second place in Class B ahead of Neil Camp. Watson was over 14 minutes behind Class B leaders Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith. Next up in Class B were Ian McLean and Lucas van Dort in a Zarco Junior, who at this stage was more than 20 minutes behind Taylor and Keith. The demanding route was starting to take its toll, with cars dropping back or headed for retirement.
Underberg pairing of John Thompson and Ian Crouch were 26.5 minutes behind the Class B leaders and chasing after Ian McLean and Lucas van Dort in the Staffix Viper. A further 6 minutes behind Thompson and Crouch, the Bulwer Park JRE in the hands of Durban garage owner Tony Ball, trying to make up ground with a clear road ahead.
On the run for home on the Bat Racing 200, the LT Earth Movers bat of Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann was in complete control. The pair dominated the Donaldson Prologue to determine grid positions, and in the race had hardly put a wheel wrong. Trethewey and Wichmann were a second shy of 2 minutes ahead of Reg Sutton and Robert Hanbury, who had put together a steady drive in the Zarco. With Class A Championship leaders Arthur Barnes and Anthony Usher failing to start, Sutton and Hanbury were set to take over top spot.
Their been a high attrition rate in Class B, with James Watson now leading the category with early leaders Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith amongst the retirements. The Mighty Mag was being chased by Daniel Brooks and Thomas Lawson, who would be more than happy with a Class A podium finish, first time out in the Ducatis bat. There were no heroics from Brooks and Lawson, and they'd also put together a steady performance.
There was also a steady performance from veteran Tony Ball in the Bulwer Park JRE. From way back in the pack, Ball had steadily worked his way into 5th overall and was second in Class B behind James Watson. Graham Peterson had also worked his way through the field in the Dragonfly and ended up around a minute and a half behind Ball. With the retirement of Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith earlier in the day, Peterson would take over top spot in the Class B Championship.
In the production vehicle category, there was a comfortable victory for Rowan Lamb and Lyle Parker, who would go on to give the X-Factory Ford Ranger an overall win in the National Championship race.
Back at race headquarters, Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann received the spoils of victory and were chuffed with themselves.
Yeah, we are. It was very good. We had a puncture in the time trial. Our navigator was brilliant today, didn't make one mistake. Also, we're grateful to the Sauls for lending us a tyre, because we had 2 punctures yesterday, we had a puncture today. And they lent us some tyres, so we were very grateful for them. And then also just to all our fans that were out there today cheering us on, and and to all the pit crew that helped us today. Without everybody, it won't happen, and we're just grateful for that.
A comfortable victory for Lance Trethewey and Carl Wichmann ahead of Reg Sutton and Robert Hanbury. A demanding route saw to it that there were only 9 finishers, with James Watson taking Class B ahead of Tony Ball.
The cricket class is an entry-level racing category exclusive to the KwaZulu-Natal Regional Off-Road Championship. Cricket racing is a budget formula with the frames imported from China, modified to suit KZN conditions and fitted with motorcycle engines with a capacity of not more than 450cc. Apart from being cheap, it is fun racing and has lured the likes of Boyd Dreyer away from racing motorcycles.
It's awesome, yeah. It's what every teenager would want to do. It's something that we, like, I used to dream of, going around the corner sideways in a car. It's like a hell of a thing, but now I've got the opportunity to do it and I'm doing it.
There was a good turnout of cricket class competitors on the Bat Racing 200, with drivers completing the same Donaldson prologue and main race routes as the other classes. On the prologue, the pace was set by a flying George de Jager, who was 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead of Warren Confate, who went into the Richmond event leading the championship after a win on the opening event of the KwaZulu-Natal Championship at New Hanover.
The crickets built up a good head of steam on the more open sections of the prologue route, and Roger Curran bombed his way past Class B competitor Amanda Botma on his way to 3rd, 6.5 minutes behind de Jager.
After a steady performance on the Donaldson prologue, the race saw Roger Curran turn up the wick. In tough conditions that put a huge strain on driver and machine, Curran put together a faultless drive that gave him the victory just over 35 minutes ahead of Warren Confate.
On his way to 2nd place, Warren Confate had his moments, but was also hampered at times by mechanical problems. There were times when the cricket did not sound at all healthy, but Confate made it to the finish behind Roger Curran in a result that saw the two end the day joint leaders of the championship.
The demanding route was tough enough on the bigger capacity cars and took its toll on the crickets, with only 3 of the little machines making it to the finish. Young Boyd Dreyer showed a great deal of guts and determination as he overcame a string of problems to earn himself a place on the podium and keep a hold on 3rd place in the championship.
They weren't about to offer any assistance, and Boyd had to fend for himself. They say off-road racing is character building, and Dreyer got his hands and overall dirty before a friendly spectator towed him out of a mud hole.
The story of BAT racing is one of South African off-road racing's fairy tale successes. The first BAT was built and raced by Brandon Hargis in 2001, and he chose the name BAT because he reckoned the cars went like a bat out of hell. Over the last decade, cars built by BAT Racing have won a string of national championships and have dominated the special vehicle category.
Since the introduction of the original BAT Zero models, the cars have over the years undergone a constant evolution process. The ABSA Off-Road Championship has also undergone change over the last decade, and BAT racing has kept pace with new developments in the sport.
South African-built BAT cars have also fared well in the export market and have raced with success in Australia, the Emirates, Europe and the United States of America. Perhaps the best testimonial for BAT racing is the number of Spec Zero cars still to be found competing successfully at regional and national championship level. The Spec Zero cars were originally built to compete in the Premier Class A in the national championship, but have been overtaken by evolution. For all that, an impressive number of Spec Zero cars have been refurbished and are still competitive at regional and championship level.
Over the last decade, the BAT racing philosophy has centered around building race cars that are both highly competitive and affordable. In recent years, Cully and Quinton Sulwald won the 2008 and 2010 Special Vehicle Championship in a BAT.
In last year's ABSA Championship, Atlas Copco crew of Johan van Staden and Mike Lawrenson currently race a Spec 5 BAT and won the RFS Michalis 400 at the start of the season. Motorite crew of Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen are this year campaigning the latest Spec BAT Venom, with the car quickly proving to be competitive in the best tradition of BAT racing products.
Into the future, and the next race on the ABSA Championship calendar is the Blue Chip Toyota 1000 Desert Race in Botswana from June 22 to 24. This is the only marathon event on the calendar and attracts a huge following in Botswana.